Hey guys, welcome to the video. I'm going to be showing you guys how to build a small web application with React. We're going to be using functional components and hooks. If you've never used functional components or hooks, I would go take 5 or 10 minutes to go to the reactjs.org docs and look at the components and props and the state and lifecycle sections under main concepts, and then under hooks, take a look at hooks at a glance and the state and effect hook. If you don't want to do that though, if you want to just wing it, that's fine. I'll do my best to try and explain it the best that I can. This is the API that we're going to be using. I've never used it before, but it looks pretty simple. It just returns a dad joke with an ID, a joke, and a status, and that's in a JSON format. So without further ado, I don't want this video to be any longer than it has to. Let's go ahead and get started. So I've got a folder here, and I'm going to create a React application using the create React app CLI. Now, if you don't have that, it's very simple to install. Just make sure you have Node and npm installed, and you can do npm install, and then you're going to want to do -g for global, and you'll put create -react -app, and you'll hit enter, and you'll install that, and you'll be good to go. Now, I already have that, so I don't need to install it. So once you have it installed, all you need to do is hit npx create -react app, and then whatever you want this to be called. So I want the project to be called dad jokes app. So I'll hit enter, and this will start doing its thing. It's going to build a boilerplate React application for us from that CLI. So this is a pretty slow process depending on your computer. So I'm going to be back whenever this finishes. Okay, so now that that is done, all we need to do is open up that project folder. So I'm going to open it in Visual Studio Code, which is my code editor of choice. And so I'm going to use the integrated terminal for now. So I'll run that start command to get our dev server up and running. And so it pulled it up over there. I'm going to throw it on a second desktop here and maximize it. So now we can go back and forth pretty easily. But you see that's up and running on localhost 3000. It says edit source /app.js and save to reload. So if we want to just make sure that this is working, if we go to app.js and we make this say hello world and we save and we go back, you'll see it's updated. So we know that this is working. Now I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. So app.css we don't need, index.css we don't need. We're going to be using Bootstrap. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to take out the logo here, and then I'm actually going to remove everything inside of this div and replace it with an H1 that just says let's get started. I'll save that in index. I need to get rid of that, so save that. We don't need the logo anymore, so we can just actually right click and delete that, and I think that's it. Yep. Okay, so you see we've got a white page with black text. It doesn't look too good, but if we go into index.html, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna use Bootstrap. You guys can use whatever you want to, but Bootstrap is nice and simple. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just gonna throw that in. I always do that. I'm gonna throw that in right there. I'll word wrap that so we can see it, and then I'll get the JavaScript as well. I'll throw it down here below the body. Save that. Let's update the title to say dad jokes app. So we'll save that. We'll go back, and you can see that the text has changed, like the font, and our title's updated. So we should be good to go. We'll exit out of that, exit out of index. And so now we can actually start working on our application, right? So the first thing I want to do is build 2 components. The first one, let's close the public folder. Inside of source here, I'm gonna make a new folder called components. And then I like to break my components up into kind of like subcategories. So I might have some that are layouts for things like headers and footers, maybe some utility classes for things that are going to be reused, like alerts or buttons, things of that nature. And then I like to have one for pages. So if there's like a login page or an about page, something that really is only there to hold information or something like that, I might throw that into its own folder. But for now, I'm going to make a layout folder, and inside of that, I'm going to create a navbar.js component. I'm going to do RFC enter to create that functional component snippet boilerplate there. And then, like I said, this is going to be a navbar, so I'm just going to go to Bootstrap, and I'm going to grab. Actually, why don't we throw this on this as well, make it a little bit easier. And so I think I just want to grab like maybe this one, right? And so we'll go back to our app, and let me just paste that in there. I'm gonna format this so we can see it a little bit easier, and let's make this navbar dark. So because we're in React, we need to change all of these class attributes to be class name, because that's how React works. That's the syntax. And so if we save that and we go back to our app, nothing has changed. That's because we haven't actually imported it into our app. So to do that, we need to do import, and then whatever our component is. So in this case, it's navbar from, and then the path. So ours is in the source component or folder, in a components folder, in a layout folder, and it's called navbar. So if we save that, and then we come here and we drop in that navbar and go back, you can see there's our navbar. So we don't need all of these pages, and we'll make this say dad jokes app. So I just want to leave one of these things here, and we'll make this say about. And so we'll wire that up to go to an about page in a little bit. But for now, this will do. So our next component that we need is going to be the actual joke component. So inside of our components folder at just the root components directory, I'm going to make a joke.js. And again, RFC to create that functional component boilerplate. And for now, I'll just say it's a joke. All right, save that. Let's exit our navbar real fast. And so we need to bring that into the app as well. So import joke from /components/joke. Save that. Oh, I misspelled from. Okay, and so we'll replace this tag with our joke. Okay, and so then if we go back, we see it's a joke. All right, so obviously this needs to be a little bit different. So let's make this a card. I think I want to use something like this, maybe. So let's go back to our app, and let's just replace this like so. I'm going to format that so we can make it easier. Again, we got to replace class with class name, so I'll do that. Okay, this is going to say joke or dad joke, and then for the title, we're going to leave the title out, and the text, this will eventually be the text from the response with the actual joke on it. And then button, this is going to say get another joke. So we'll wire that up in a minute as well. But for now, we have this button. It goes all the way across, which is not that great. So we're going to add a class name attribute here, and we're just going to give this a width of 50. And so you see that's a little bit smaller there. Maybe we can do, well, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. We'll do that. And then inside of our app, I want to wrap this in a div, like that. And then I want to add class name to this, and this is going to be a container, and it's going to have X margins that are auto, so it's centered on the screen. And well, it's not 100% centered. Let's take this off. Hold on. Did I do that wrong? Width. Whatever. We'll leave that alone for now. I don't know why I was doing that. Let's add a margin. Let's add a margin top to this of 4. Okay. So this is looking good. Now we just need to actually put some joke values in there. So we're gonna make our state for our jokes. So the way this works, if you've never used the useState hook, is you define 2 different variables. The first one is going to be your state variable. So ours is going to be called joke. Yours could be called whatever you want. To-dos, item, to-do, item, bill, person, employee, whatever it is, it goes in the first part of this array. And then the second thing is the function you're going to call to change or to update that variable. So ours is going to be called setJoke. And then you're going to use the useState hook, and we're going to set this, for now we'll just say it's empty. And before we go any farther, we need to actually import this from React. So we need the useState hook, or I'm sorry, it's set state, right? No, yeah, useState. Sorry, it's useState set, yeah, okay. useState, and then we're also going to bring in useEffect, which I'll explain in a second. So we're going to use our state value there. And so for now, let's just say we have const initial joke, and then this is going to be set to an array with an object, and this is going to be a joke object. So let's just say it's got a joke and haha funny joke, right? So we'll save that, and then we can set this to, we can set this to be initial joke, right? And then here we can have joke, or sorry, we need some curly brackets, and we can say this is joke.joke, and we can save, and that didn't work. There we go. Okay, we didn't actually need the array because it was just one thing. So we've got that there. Let me just format this. Okay, so we've got that there. You can see, but this is state that is just hard coded into our app. So like if we refresh this, this is never going to change, right? And that's not what we want. We want to be able to make an Axios request to that API so that we can update that joke whenever we hit that button, right? So to do this, all we need to do is we can actually take out this hard-coded state that we just had. Let's leave this as something that's empty. And so now you can see we don't have a joke. But if we just Control-C to quit that that server, and we say npm install Axios, and we let Axios install. If you've never used Axios, it's kind of like the fetch that's already built in the JavaScript. I just like Axios because I find it easier to use. It's what I go to. It's, you know, it's personal preference though, but it's just like fetch. It's an HTTP client, so you can use it to make GET requests and POST requests and return data to your application. So now that that's installed, we can get our server back up and running. And so all we need to do is we want to go ahead and get a joke when the component loads. So to do that, we use the useEffect hook, right? So useEffect, and then this is going to be an arrow function. And inside of this is where we want to actually make our Axios call. So we'll do axios.get, and then we need to pass in the URL for our API. So this is the one that I'm using. If you're following along, I'll put the link to this in the description. This API is a little bit weird, so we actually have to pass in a headers value of accept, and this is going to be application/JSON. So do that, and then we'll put this on a new line so that's easier to read. And so Axios is, I didn't import it. It's not supposed to be a capital. It does that. So import that lowercase, and then there you go. Axios, and then this is promise based, so we need to do a .then, and if we get a response, we want to, let's just console log that response .data, right? And then we need to catch the error if there is one, and we will do the same thing. We will log that error. Okay, so now if we take a look here, by going function F12, whoops. Oh, we got to refresh. Okay, so you can see we have got a response, and we've got an RD, we've got a joke, right? So all we need to do now, instead of console logging this data, we need to do set joke. So we need to call the function that we're going to use to update our joke state value or variable, and we want to pass it res.data, right? Easy enough. So let's go looky here. Wow. Oh wow. Okay, so you see this? You see how this is changing? So the reason this is happening is because we're using the useEffect hook, right? So the useEffect hook is every time your component mounts. So if you're familiar with class-based components, every time the component mounts would be component did mount, right? You would use that. So useEffect is basically the equivalent. So every time your component renders, it runs useEffect, right? And so basically what we're doing is we're making this Axios request that's getting this data in, and then we're setting our state variable to the new data, and we're passing it into our component here by saying joke.joke to get our joke. And so it's fetching the data, it's updating the state, and then it's pushing it through our component and displaying it on the screen. And so every time the component re-renders to update the joke, it calls the useEffect hook again, and so it's stuck in this endless loop here, right? So you're probably wondering, how do we stop this, right? So it's pretty simple. All you have to do is come right here, and you just got to pass in an empty array. And so now we have our joke, and we fixed it. Oh, that's the wrong button. That's still the wrong button. So that's an easy fix, right? So then what else do we want to do? Well, we want to be able to click this button and get another joke, right? So let's come here. Let's take out this href because we don't need it. And then let's go ahead and make the text white on this so it's easier to read. and we want to add an onClick function. And our onClick function is going to be called fetch joke, right? So we need to come up here and define it. So const fetch joke, and this is going to be another arrow function. Whoops, another arrow function. And all we want to do is make another Axios GET request. So we're just going to copy this like that. Yeah. And so now we've got our joke. What did the digital clock say to the grandfather clock? Look, no hands. And if we hit this, we get another joke. And so we can just keep hitting this, keep hitting this, keep hitting this, and we're always going to get that new joke, right? So that's working. So we've got a functional app. We're doing this. Now, this is pretty repetitive. If you wanted to, you could pull this out into its own function, you know, and you could just on use effect call another function. But for the sake of the tutorial, this is fine. But you might want to look into doing that if you were doing this for production. Okay, so this is working. So now let's look at React Router, right? So we need to come back to our app, and we need to kill this just one more time. And now we need to install so with npm react router DOM. And so let this install. Okay, and so let's just npm run start to get our server back up and running. Okay, so let's bring that in. So we want to import browser router as router, and we want to get route, and this is from React Router DOM. Okay, so we need to wrap this entire thing in our router component. So we'll move this down and format that, right? Get rid of that. Okay, and so we've got our app and our nav bar, and then for the joke here, we only want that to be displayed if we're on the home page, if we're on that root directory. So to do this, all we need to do is take that out, and we can say route. We want to give this a path, and the path, since this is the home directory, is going to be /, and then we need to pass it the exact argument. And then we're going to say component, and we want it to be joke. Okay, and so then if we go back and we go to /, we get this. This is still working fine, but then we want to open up this nav bar here. Nav link to about. We want this to go to /about, right? So then, if this href, let's make this go to the root directory. So now, if we click this, we're at the root, and then if we go to about, you see there's nothing there because we're not matching the exact root directory to display this component. So let's make an about component, right? So in components, let's make a folder, call it pages. Let's create a new file, call that about.js, rfc, and inside of this we want to put we want an h1 that says this is a ReactJS application. And we'll add a paragraph tag here that says this tutorial covers React hooks, functional components, and React router. So we'll save that, and so now we want to bring it in to our app too, but we only want that to be when we go to /about, and we want to load the about component. So then we need to bring that in, import about from /components /about. Nope, sorry, this is pages /about. So save that, and we go back, and you see here we're at the root directory. We're on the about page. No more button, no more joke. Go back, and boom, here we are. So real fast, let's just add class name equals, and make this mx auto. So that'll be in the middle too. All right, so there you go. This has been a tutorial on how to build this rather simple web application where we just get random dad jokes. If you wanted to, you could build out some more functionality to this. You know, you could hook this up to a database of jokes. You could add a button to like this, to dislike them. You could make some post requests to add your own jokes if you wanted to, with a text box or an entry field, a prompt, however you wanted to do it. So this has been pretty basic, but you could take this and you can expand upon this project if you want to. So thank you guys for watching. If this video has been helpful at all, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more.